Let me take you back to 2004. At the time, I had a business partner, Colin Rich, who was a PhD electrical engineer, and he and I were looking for something to work on that would be closer to market than the other project that we were also working on at the time. And we went to the University of Michigan. We looked for the engineering school. We found a technology in the metalworking fluid detection of biocontamination area. Now, you're like, what? Why was this interesting? Well, it was interesting because all of the big automotive companies thought it was interesting, and all of the unions thought it was interesting, and so we thought it was interesting because there seemed to be a market. And we got involved with this technology and spent about 9 months working on whether this was an opportunity that we were curious about. So it was a technology for the detection of biocontamination of metalworking fluids. That was one application. Another application was, could you actually use it for water testing? There's a problem with the water testing market. The water testing market is extremely fragmented and highly regulated, so we opted not to pursue that for very long. And then the final opportunity that we saw was as a life science research tool because it was based on the concepts of flow cytometry. And the way we ultimately made the decision was based on the market need, because you're always looking for an unmet market need. And in this case, one of the guys we were working with from the tech transfer office happened to be married to an immunologist. Immunologists happen to be the primary users of flow cytometers, and we went and talked to the immunologist wife of one of the tech transfer guys, and we said, what if we could build a high-performance flow cytometer that's easy to use and is far more cost-effective, much cheaper to get? And her reaction was really strong. She said, I don't believe you. When can I have one? And we said, I don't believe you says, there isn't one out there. When can I have one says, I'm ready to buy if you do it. This is the hallmarks of a good business opportunity, is what I've ultimately discovered. And that conversation replayed over and over and over again with cell biologists, other immunologists. People were incredulous that this could even be done. And ultimately, that is exactly what we did do. We raised I raised $31 million to do it. We spent 6 years on the process. We built a company, built a product, launched the product, got it all over the world, and ultimately sold that company. So that's what our flow cytometer looked like. So let me tell you a little bit more about what is flow cytometry, because I suspect that the vast majority of you have no idea. A flow cytometer is a cell analysis tool that detects the characteristics of cell populations in cells like blood cells, or it could be some other kind of cell in solution. And what it does, it's better than a microscope, because you can do thousands and thousands of cells a second with a flow cytometer. And it's better than a PCR machine, because you can look at individual cells on an individual cell basis, those characteristics, rather than as some kind of an average. The problem was that these flow cytometers that existed in 2004 and 2005 and 2006 and 2007 before we launched were huge. They were the size of coffins. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and basically they were like mainframe computers. You had to go to a central lab someplace on campus and actually rent space and time on these machines because they were too expensive, too big, too complicated for individual lab use. And this meant that flow cytometry wasn't used nearly as much as it could have been. So what did we say we could do? Well, we were going to make the PC version of a flow cytometer. So we were going to make it easy to use and cost-effective, but just as powerful as that mainframe computer type of version. And that's actually what we ended up doing. But at the time that we were talking about that, people were saying, well, why would you want to do that? There's already a product in the marketplace. How can you prove that there's somebody that wants to buy this for not very much money? And the big players in the space were not convinced there was a market here at all. I'm going to jump ahead to the after effect and just give you some statistics of the story before I get into some of what I learned. It took 6 years from the time we started the company until exit. We raised $31 million. We went from 2 employees to over 80. They were 85 when I left the company. We went from 0 once we launched the product to 20 million in 3 years. That makes us one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing life science tools company in history. We sold it to the industry leader, Becton Dickinson, who was the gold standard product marketer at the time. for $205 million. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about exit valuations, but 10x revenue is a really premium valuation.